Genesis chapter 3. This chapter is longer and I have more verses because this is the chapter that Adam and Eve commit original sin. Verse 1. How the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. Satan is not to be messed with. He's strong. He's powerful. He's not as powerful as God, but he is still very powerful. He can tempt people very easily, very well. That's what he does. Verses 2 and 3. The woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. The Lord God told Adam and Eve, Don't eat from the tree. Eve thought she couldn't even touch the tree. She still did, but she thought she couldn't even touch the tree. I was watching Billy's TikTok, and he actually mentions this, and he says it's about conscience, which is your sense of good and bad, what to do and what not to do. He explains it very well, but she sinned even when she touched the tree because for her that was what the sin actually was. Billy explains it better. I'll tag him in this video. Verses 4 and 5. Then the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The serpent, like I said, is a very good manipulator. He's putting a great offer for Eve. If you didn't know the punishments, or if you thought there weren't going to be punishments, why wouldn't you go through with that deal? Verse 6. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. The tree looks very good. It's desirable and it's pleasant to the eyes. It is a heavy temptation. And since they are one flesh, why would she not share such greatness with her husband Adam? They were made for each other. Verses 7 and 8. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God. The devil did not lie about their eyes being opened. That was true. But Adam and Eve still sinned, and they were ashamed. Everyone is ashamed after they sin. That's a normal thing to happen. But that's because sinning is wrong, and you should try to avoid it. Verse 10. So he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. His perfect God only gave him one rule, and he broke it. He was embarrassed. Verses 12 and 13. Then the man said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. The woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I ate. Neither of them can take accountability for their poor actions. I feel like this is a very common thing that I do and that other people do, but it's very bad. Just take accountability for the things that you did wrong. If it's your fault, why do you go straight to blaming someone else? I do this all the time, and it's something I need to work on. Verses 14, 16, and 17. So the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle, and more than every beast of the field. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Then to Adam he said, Cursed is the ground for your sake. The Lord God is the most loving thing ever. God is love, but is not afraid to give people the consequences that they deserve. Verse 19. Till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Talking about death. Had we not done the original sin, we would be living with God eternally, forever and ever. There would be no death. Everything would be perfect. But original sin did happen. Verse 22. Then the Lord God said, Behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil, and now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. When I think of this verse, I think it's just supposed to be funny. I'm sure it's not actually written to be that way, but I see it as a humor verse. I see it, Oh, behold, the man has become like one of us. He's cracking a joke, basically. Verse 24, He drove out the man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to guard the way of the tree of life. One day, we're going to make it back into heaven. We're going to see the Garden of Eden, but we had that taken away from our whole lives on earth because of original sin. For people who are like Adam and Eve, you guys are horrible. ruined it for every one of us. What would you do in that same situation given all the temptations? Personally, I would probably give in and I would commit original sin too. And my main takeaway from Genesis chapter 3 is that you have to own up to your mistakes. You should try your hardest not to make your mistakes, but once you do make your mistakes, we should own up to our mistakes. Thank you guys for watching.